Welcome to the Sunday morning simulcast with Rom Wills. Change the water. You know what? If you have an aquarium, right? You have an aquarium and the fish are acting real funny, sluggish, they ain't doing their bopping around like they used to. You probably need to change the water in there. And anybody who owns an aquarium know you got to change the water constantly anyway, right? It's the same thing in life, right? If you going through life and stuff is just not working for you, right? You don't like your career or your job or whatever you're doing to survive. You don't like your relationships, and especially if you don't like your living environment, and it's starting to affect you emotionally, you might have to change your water. And because a lot of times people try, because of their circumstances, they in a certain environment and they feel, they just, for whatever reason, they can't get out of it, right? Or sometimes they don't even think to get out of it, right? They gotta change it. You gotta change your environment. People don't realize that. It's like, in that environment, it could be where you live. It could be the relationship you're in. It could be your circle of friends. It could be the job you have. You have to think about it because you cannot separate your environment from who you are. You can't separate. If someone wants to know why the fish are behaving a certain way, right? If they want to know why the fish are behaving a certain way, they need to check the water. There's a saying, crabs in the barrel, right? If they say there's a saying, crabs in the barrel, and the saying is, a crab try to crawl out, others pull them back in, right? And really, those crabs are pulling them back in because they're trying to get out. But why are they trying to get out at first? Because the environment's very hot. It was like, they just climbing over each other and everything. It's not conducive to them. People don't think about that. Like, I remember I read about a gentleman, right? I'm not going to call his name, but supposedly he was living in the big city, right? And this is a common story, right? This especially in the black community back in the day, right? You may have somebody there in the city or something, and they're just cutting up. They're just cutting. In fact, I got another story about that, more specific. They're just cutting up and everything, right? Getting into trouble. So their relatives will send them down south. They'll send them to like a more rural area and stuff, and usually they get straightened out. And I remember a woman told me that one time she had a nephew that was just a bad kid, jumping around, doing all this stuff, but they took care of him for a week and he just changed his whole thing. And the only thing, it wasn't his personality. It wasn't just something inherent in him. It was the environment. That's why you get some kids, if they in the worst neighborhood, right? Worst environment, they could change up. They're going to get caught up in certain stuff. But then you put them in another one, it's like boom. I'll tell you a story about myself. I remember back in the 8th grade, right? Back in the 8th grade, I used to be a peaceful kid, but I started getting in fights and stuff when I was in the 8th grade. Like, that's probably the one year I probably fought every other week, right? That was all I behaved seriously. And I remember a teacher telling me, a teacher said, this is going to be the worst report card of your life. Because I was like that smart, studious kid, right? But I was also that kid being smart and studious and generally peaceful. Other people thought they could take advantage. Now, I put up with some stuff before the 8th grade, right? I put up with a lot of stuff, right? A lot of people trying me and everything, but I was just like, So, I know about that bullying, but it didn't affect me that much because 8th grade hit a growth spurt and I was popping some people. And I mean, like, to the point teachers were concerned. They were like, wait a minute, Rom, you used to be one of the best students. Ironically, even though the 8th grade year was like, overall not my best year academically, I was still the smartest kid. It's in my yearbook for that year. But I realized then I needed to change my environment and stuff. So, you know, I talked to my grandmother and I said there was this private school I wanted to go to. And, you know, I did the stuff I had to do, the test and everything to get in that private school, and I got in there. Once I got in there, you know, since it was a different environment where, you know, somebody wasn't trying to test me or fight or whatever every day and stuff like that, I could focus on my academics. Everything went back to normal. I was honors roll several times, right? And, you know, did well in school and even got scholarship offers to different colleges, right? The thing is, I changed the environment. And people got to look, when you out here, when you look at your situation, look at the environment you're in. You know, start with your home. Is the home chaotic? You know, or is it peaceful? Like, honestly, a lot of people, even though I'm promoting great relationships, sometimes the person you're with that's part of the problem. You might have to roll out from that person, change that environment. Now, if they not their problem and it's still stress, then y'all might have to move. You know, or if the stress is coming from your job, you need to seriously look for another job, because that's affecting you. You know, or if you got a bunch of friends who bring in nothing but drama, you're going to have to change it. You know, don't be afraid to walk away from people, because, look, sometimes people, in a sense of loyalty, they'll stay in a situation or whatnot, or they'll feel like they can't do any better. But if it's killing you, why are you staying in it? You know, and I know some people say, well, I can't afford to move, and these people have been my friends since childhood. It's like, but they toxic. You got to do whatever you got to do to get out of that situation. You got to change the water. You got to change the water. You got to, because what good is that situation for you? You trying to be loyal or deal with the same thing thinking you don't have any options. You always have options. You always. What good is it if this is stressing you out? What good is it staying on that job if it's stressing you out? Yeah, you paying bills with it or something, but contrary to popular belief, there are plenty of jobs. There's still plenty of jobs. Now, you might have to do some stuff to get that job. You might have to like get some type of training or see what you can do there, or you know, you might just try to think about doing something entrepreneurial. But you still got to change it, because what good is it if this is stressing you out? If this is giving you high blood pressure and stuff? If this is because of how you eat and you might be getting diabetes or something, what good is that job just to get a little bit of money? Or what good is that like living situation or that neighborhood? You got to change the water, because you can't separate one for the other. In fact, like out here in general, just on a macro level, people talk about the hood or different places and everybody's behaving so dysfunctional. Where they living at? You can't just say, because if you take, I guarantee, if you take the same person and put them in another environment, in some different type of water, they'll gradually change up, right? You know, they'll gradually change up, and that happens a lot. That's why you get a lot of people who come out of bad neighborhoods and they will never go back, because they realize they seen something different. They seen a different environment. You know, it wasn't conducive. You can't separate the water from the environment. Like if people, like even with, you know, I'm known for talking about relationships. You know, the one thing we got to talk about the environment that these relationships are happening in. You know, a lot of relationships break up because of we don't have the communities we did. A relationship is supported by an entire community. You know? Even families and stuff. Families are raised, children, you know, they say it takes a village to raise a child. You know, if you got a strong community, the children come up better. It's not just the parents. You know, when I was young, every adult in the places I lived from, you know, up to the age of 18, 2 different major neighborhoods, right? All the adults were your parents. All the adults could correct you. You know, now we got situations now where a person might not know the neighbor on the other side of their neighbor. They might know their immediate neighbor, right? But that's the environment. So if we want to change things, you want to change stuff in your own life, change the water you're swimming in. All right. So that's it for today. I'll talk to y'all later. Keep rising and transforming.